this morning, we are talking about setting boundaries and avoiding burnout. Wouldn't we all like to do that? The number of people feeling burned out is in fact at a new high. More than 40% of employees said it affected them, according to one recent survey of global workers. And social psychologist Heidi Grant is the author of 9 Things Successful People Do Differently, and she's here to help us with tips to unplug and get the mental rest that you need. Heidi, thank you very much for being here.
Good to be back.
The best way to unplug and get rest is to unplug and get rest, but that's hard for people to do.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's no replacing good sleep and good nutrition, but I think beyond that, a lot of how we just live is sort of killing us in terms of managing our energy. We're on mentally from the moment we wake up, and we hop on our phones and we're looking at all this information. I mean, it's sort of unprecedented in human history. We were hunter-gatherers for most of our existence. And now we live in this environment where we're juggling multiple tasks at all times. We're living with constant uncertainty. Many of us who work where there are meetings are in back-to-back-to-back meetings, right, with no breaks in between. And then when we're not doing that, we're on our phones or we're checking it. We're just being bombarded with information. And so our brains are always on, and they just weren't meant to be always on.
So how do we shut them off?
Right, and that's really, really difficult because the world sort of doesn't want to let you, it feels like, in many ways. One of the things that really is important is boundaries, right? Making some decisions about, when your off time will be and be really purposeful about it. And if you work with other people, it's really important to actually do that together, to figure out how you're going to kind of take some designated downtime as a team or protect some time, whether it's everyone taking the same lunch hour. And agreeing, by the way, when you're going to stop working. If you are answering emails at 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night, you're, again, not getting that off time, and you're not holding a boundary that you probably really need. Like, I'm going to be done at 7, and then I'm not going to look at my email anymore. And when people do that, they actually do find that their energy is very much replenished. So boundaries are a really important part of it.
It's such an important point, but it's also easier said than done.
Oh, much.
And you've talked a little bit about how people are also using their free time wrong. How so?
Right, and that's true because there's lots of ways to replenish your energy throughout the day. You don't have to just sit there and do nothing. But what happens is when people have a 3-minute break, a 10-minute break, a half an hour, what do they do with it? They check email. They do the dishes, and unless you happen to really love checking email,
or
that's
doing
not
the dishes.
Or doing the dishes. That's not going to put gas back in the tank. But research does show that if you choose to do something with that time, again, even if it's like 3 minutes, that you really love, like something that's interesting to you. So that can be going for a walk or stepping outside. It can be playing with your dog, listening to music. It can be playing a game on your phone that you happen to really love. A little Wordle or something. It doesn't have to be. It can be active, but the important thing is the activity is something you love, you find interesting, and if you do, that actually puts gas back in the tank in terms of energy.
So, according to science, men are much better at being lazy, good for nothing, do nothing.
It's a science.
Experience. I'm curious, why is there a gender difference in all of this?
I think that the gender difference isn't so much about on-off, right? I think that men are typically on as much all day in terms of kind of mentally active. One of the things we do see, though, still to this day is that women, on average, tend to have more different kinds of responsibilities that they're simultaneously solving for.
Multitask.
Yes, and they're multitasking. They are more likely to play caregiver roles, whether it's to children or parents or other members of the family. So you take the sort of on all day that I think everyone experiences, and women are just also more likely to also be on all day doing many kinds of things at the same time.
And there's this sense whenever you are juggling so many different responsibilities, you're not doing anything well.
Oh, and the guilt is terrible, right? I mean, and that's one of these things, again, with boundaries and with taking little moments to replenish that you really have to fight, that little voice that says, oh, I should be doing something productive with this time. If you don't take that time, you're not going to be as productive as you could be. So it's really about making the most of the energy you have.
Great advice, Heidi Grant. Thank you so much.
Thank you.